If anything in this life is certain, if history's taught us anything, it's that you can kill anyone.
Is it worth it?
My father taught me many things here. He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Friends, if you want to watch the legendary movie The Godfather Part II in English, then make sure to like this video. If you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, we are going to talk about one of the greatest films in cinema history, The Godfather Part II. We'll discuss what this movie is all about and where you can watch it. You'll also get to know some amazing and interesting facts related to this movie. In today's video, I'll tell you everything, on which OTT platform or satellite channel this movie is available. Along with that, we'll take a deep dive into the technical department, the music, pre-production, filming, post-production, the film's budget, and its box office collection. We'll also talk about the story of the film, and I'll give you a short review as well. Apart from this, we'll cover the behind-the-scenes facts, storyline, star cast, performance of the actors, and who played which iconic role. So friends, I request you to watch this video till the end because you are going to get full detailed information about The Godfather Part II. So, let's start the video. The Godfather Part II, Plot and Narrative Analysis. Third person, Detailed Perspective. Introduction to Structure and Style. The Godfather Part II, 1974, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, is not just a sequel to The Godfather, it's also a prequel. The film uniquely weaves two parallel narratives, one continuing the story of Michael Corleone after he becomes the Don of the Corleone family, and the other tracing the rise of his father, Vito Corleone, from a young Sicilian immigrant to a powerful mafia figure in early 20th century New York. This non-linear structure, intercutting between two time periods, creates a powerful thematic juxtaposition between father and son, past and present, honor and corruption. Narrative timeline A. Michael Corleone's story, late 1950s. Opening scene. Michael Corleone, now the head of the Corleone crime family, is hosting his son's first communion celebration at his Lake Tahoe estate. This echoes the opening of The Godfather, but the mood is darker and more businesslike. Michael is surrounded by politicians and corrupt business associates, revealing how deep his operations have gone into legitimacy and corruption. Key Conflict 1. Assassination Attempt. That night, Michael survives an assassination attempt at his home. He realizes someone close has betrayed him. This becomes the driving force of his act: paranoia, isolation, and a quest to root out betrayal within his inner circle. Key development: betrayal and family breakdown. As Michael investigates, he uncovers a series of betrayals involving his trusted capos and even his own brother, Fredo. Fredo's betrayal is subtle at first. He claims ignorance, but his nervousness and guilt expose him. This moment marks a key emotional turning point, not just for Michael but for the entire family dynamic. Political intrigue and Senate hearing. The plot deepens with a Senate investigation into organized crime. Michael is summoned, and an attempt is made to publicly ruin him. However, in classic Corleone fashion, he manipulates the system and silences a key witness, Frank Pentangeli, through intimidation involving family threats. This part showcases Michael's cold-blooded intelligence and moral dissent. Fredo's downfall. The emotional climax of Michael's story arrives when he kisses Fredo at a New Year's Eve party and whispers, "I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart." This moment is not only a turning point in their relationship but symbolizes the collapse of family loyalty, a theme central to the saga. Ending. Michael eventually has Fredo killed, a chilling scene that occurs while Fredo is fishing with Michael's son. The film ends with Michael sitting alone in the garden, reflecting silently. The once family-oriented man is now completely isolated, consumed by power, betrayal, and paranoia. Narrative timeline B. Young Vito Corleone's story, early 1900s. Beginning. The second narrative opens in Corleone, Sicily, where Vito's father, brother, and mother are killed by a mafia boss, Don Siccio. Young Vito escapes to America alone, and this traumatic start mirrors the later violence his son will endure. These scenes are filled with silence and wide shots, emphasizing loss, loneliness, and survival. Young Vito's rise. In 1920s New York, Vito, played by Robert De Niro, starts as a quiet and observant man working in a grocery store. He soon finds himself entangled with local mafia figures and begins to build a reputation. He gains respect by killing a local tyrant, Don Fanucci, during a festival, a critical turning point that marks the birth of the Corleone family's criminal legacy. Character building and loyalty. Unlike Michael, Vito is portrayed as fair, kind, and deeply loyal to his community. He helps people in need, earns respect, and gradually builds his empire not just through fear but through mutual respect and justice. contrasting heavily with Michael's path. Sicily revenge arc. Eventually, Vito returns to Sicily as an adult and murders Don Ciccio, the man who killed his family. This act of vengeance is a full-circle moment that defines Vito's journey from helpless immigrant to powerful patriarch. Themes and emotional resonance. Legacy and corruption. The film explores how power and legacy are passed from one generation to another, and how that power corrupts. Vito builds a legacy of respect and family, while Michael inherits it and corrupts it with paranoia and violence. Family versus power. Both narratives deal with family, but in opposing ways. Vito's actions are motivated by protection and honor, while Michael's are driven by control and dominance, even if it means destroying his own family. Time and perspective. The film's non-linear narrative enhances its themes. By showing Vito's rise alongside Michael's fall, the film forces the audience to draw moral and emotional comparisons, building a tragic dual portrait of the American immigrant experience. Conclusion. The Godfather Part II doesn't follow a conventional three-act structure. Instead, it experiments with parallel timelines, thematic mirroring, and emotional contrast. It's a masterclass in storytelling, showing how the past informs the present, how power corrupts differently across generations, and how tragedy can emerge not from failure, but from success. The emotional weight of the film lies in its quiet, reflective moments, making it one of the most powerful and enduring films in cinematic history. Would you like a shorter version for your video narration or want this translated into Urdu or Roman Urdu for your script? The Godfather Part II, Character Development Analysis. Explained from a third-person perspective, in great detail. Introduction, a masterclass in character complexity. The Godfather Part II is widely regarded as a cinematic masterpiece not only for its storytelling but for its deeply layered character development. Every key character in the film is meticulously crafted, with distinct motivations, internal conflicts, and emotional transformations. Rather than simple hero or villain archetypes, the film offers morally ambiguous individuals shaped by family, power, betrayal, and legacy. At its core, this is a dual character study, the rise of Vito Corleone and the moral decay of his son, Michael Corleone. 1. Michael Corleone, the tragic emperor. Transformation from protector to tyrant. Michael Corleone, the central character, undergoes the most harrowing transformation. In The Godfather, he was a war hero reluctantly pulled into the family business. But in Part 2, he is fully immersed in the world of crime and control, no longer a reluctant outsider, but the cold-hearted leader of a criminal empire. At the beginning of Part 2, Michael appears in control, poised, powerful, and respected. However, underneath the surface, he is deeply paranoid and emotionally detached. His motivations revolve around preserving his family's power, but ironically, it's this obsession that destroys the very family he claims to protect. Loss of humanity and isolation. Michael's development is not linear growth but a gradual decline. His decision to have his brother Fredo killed is the most chilling representation of this moral downfall. The audience watches as Michael becomes increasingly isolated, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. By the end, he is not victorious, he is alone. The film closes on an image of Michael sitting silently, reflecting on his past, consumed by guilt and power. His arc is not one of triumph but a Shakespearean tragedy, illustrating how ambition and power can lead to spiritual annihilation. 2. Vito Corleone, the compassionate Don. From orphan to patriarch. In contrast to Michael, Vito Corleone, played by Robert De Niro, shows a journey of growth, integrity, and survival. As a young immigrant escaping violence in Sicily, Vito begins with nothing. His development is marked by intelligence, patience, and a deep sense of justice for his community. Unlike Michael, Vito's rise to power is not purely through violence, it's through respect, fairness, and a quiet strength. His character is deeply humanized through scenes of generosity, such as helping neighbors, rejecting unnecessary cruelty, and avenging his family with a personal sense of justice. A leader built on loyalty. Vito's arc reveals how one can build power while still retaining a sense of morality, though not legality. His decisions are calculated but compassionate. His relationships are based on loyalty, not fear. This creates a strong thematic contrast to Michael's cold, paranoid leadership. In the end, Vito emerges as a symbol of lost honor, someone who chose family and respect over tyranny. His development enriches the film's exploration of how the same path, organized crime, can shape two men in profoundly different ways. 3. Fredo Corleone, the weakest link. Tragic and pathetic complexity. Fredo is perhaps one of the most tragic characters in the film. He is weak, insecure, and desperate to prove his worth. Unlike his brothers, he is not cut out for leadership or violence. His motivations come from jealousy and longing for respect, not malice. Fredo's betrayal of Michael, by leaking information to Hyman Roth, is not born out of treason, but out of his desire to feel important. His line, "I'm your older brother, Mike, and I was stepped over," reveals his inner pain. He is emotionally wounded, not evil, and this makes his fate all the more heartbreaking. When Michael has him executed, it is not just a death, it's a shattering of brotherhood, a symbolic killing of family values that the Corleones once stood for. 4. Tom Hagen, the loyal advisor. Tom Hagen, the Corleone family consigliere, is the voice of reason throughout the chaos. Calm, intelligent, and rational, Tom serves as Michael's advisor and often acts as his conscience. However, Michael begins to sideline Tom, possibly out of distrust, possibly because Tom represents a moral compass Michael no longer wishes to follow. Tom remains loyal, but his limited role shows how Michael's empire is built by removing all who offer balance or question his authority. Tom's quiet sadness and loyalty make him a deeply sympathetic character. Though he never commands power, he embodies a moral foundation that Michael slowly erodes. 5. Kay Adams, the voice of moral judgment. Kay, Michael's wife, represents the outside world and moral society. In Part 1, she was a silent observer. In Part 2, she becomes an active critic of Michael's life. Her character grows from passive to bold and rebellious, especially when she reveals she had an abortion, not a miscarriage, because she could no longer bring another child into Michael's world of lies and violence. This confrontation is a turning point in the film, where Michael completely snaps, severing their marriage and pushing away the last remnants of his personal life. 6. Hyman Roth, the calculated adversary. As the film's primary antagonist, Hyman Roth is not physically intimidating, but intellectually dangerous. He represents the business-driven, modern form of organized crime, a cold, profit-based model in contrast to Vito's loyalty-based structure. Roth is cunning, manipulative, and uses Michael's inner circle to create chaos. He's not just an enemy, he's a mirror, showing what Michael is becoming, a man who puts power and money above all else. Conclusion: character as theme. The characters in The Godfather Part II are not just participants in a plot, they are vessels for its themes: the corruption of power, the betrayal of family, and the erosion of morality. Their arcs do not serve just to entertain, but to explore the cost of ambition and legacy. Michael's descent into emotional isolation. Vito's rise through moral strength. Fredo's tragic cry for validation. Kay's rejection of corruption. Tom's fading influence. Roth's embodiment of greed. Together, these figures create a rich tapestry of human complexity, making The Godfather Part II not just a gangster movie, but a timeless character drama about the soul of power. Would you like this turned into a YouTube voiceover script or translated into Urdu Roman Urdu as well? Introduction: acting as emotional architecture. In The Godfather Part II, the performances are not just portrayals, they are the soul of the film. The actors do not merely act, they embody complex, layered characters whose internal struggles are conveyed through subtle glances, controlled dialogue, and haunting silences. The film's success in creating a sense of emotional realism, thematic depth, and tragic grandeur rests heavily on its exceptional cast. Each actor elevates the narrative by delivering performances that feel both restrained and powerful, grounded and operatic. 1. Al Pacino as Michael Corleone, a masterclass in controlled intensity. Al Pacino's performance as Michael Corleone is the emotional and psychological core of the film. Unlike the loud, flamboyant portrayals often seen in crime dramas, Pacino's Michael is quiet, calculating, and terrifyingly calm. His performance is defined by silence, stillness, and expressionless stares that carry volumes of emotional tension. Key highlights. In scenes where Michael confronts betrayal, particularly with Fredo and Kay, Pacino's use of micro-expressions shows the inner storm behind the composed exterior. His cold dismissal of Tom Hagen and his emotionless reaction to Kay's abortion reveal a man who has sacrificed humanity for control. The final scene, where Michael sits alone in the garden, is a masterpiece of silent acting. No dialogue, yet Pacino communicates isolation, regret, and emptiness with chilling effectiveness. Pacino doesn't perform Michael. He becomes Michael, portraying his transformation from a conflicted protector to a soulless, power-obsessed emperor. 2. Robert De Niro as young Vito Corleone, the quiet rise of a legend. Robert De Niro delivers a remarkable performance as young Vito Corleone, playing the same character once portrayed by Marlon Brando in the original film. Rather than imitating Brando, De Niro creates a younger, subtler version, relying on physicality, body language, and measured speech to convey Vito's inner strength. Key highlights: De Niro learned Sicilian dialect and speaks most of his lines in Italian, lending authenticity and grounding the character in immigrant experience. His performance is underplayed, soft-spoken and respectful, yet his eyes always carry a quiet, burning intelligence. The murder of Don Fanucci is executed with precision and emotional weight. De Niro's performance in this scene captures Vito's strategic mind and his emergence as a respected leader. De Niro's Oscar-winning performance adds emotional depth to the film's dual narrative, contrasting beautifully with Pacino's portrayal of Michael. Where Michael becomes feared, Vito earns respect through dignity. 3. John Cazale as Fredo Corleone, the heartbreaking weak link. John Cazale's performance as Fredo Corleone is one of the most understated and tragic in cinematic history. He portrays Fredo as insecure, fragile, and quietly desperate, a man torn between loyalty and envy. Key highlights: Cazale's eyes tell the story, always darting, filled with guilt, fear, and a deep yearning for validation. His emotional breakdown in the famous confrontation scene, "I'm your older brother, Mike," is heartbreaking. Cazale delivers it with childlike pain, making Fredo both pitiable and infuriating. Fredo's final moments with Michael's son while fishing, just before he is killed, are filled with tragic innocence, further amplified by Cazale's soft-spoken performance. Cazale brings emotional vulnerability to Fredo, making his betrayal feel human rather than villainous. It's a performance that stays with the viewer long after the film ends. 4. Diane Keaton as Kay Adams, from wife to moral opponent. Diane Keaton, as Kay Adams, plays a more active and emotionally powerful role in Part 2 than in the first film. Her transformation from a naive outsider to a moral challenger of Michael adds a new layer of emotional conflict. Key highlights: Keaton's most powerful moment comes during the confrontation where she reveals her abortion. Her delivery is fierce, raw, and morally defiant, shaking Michael to the core. She portrays Kay as a woman who loves Michael but can no longer accept the lies, bringing humanity and pain into a world dominated by power and control. Keaton's performance injects a much-needed moral voice into the narrative, reminding the audience of the human cost of Michael's choices. 5. Robert Duvall as Tom Hagen, the voice of reason. Robert Duvall gives a subtle yet deeply effective performance as Tom Hagen, the loyal consigliere. He is composed, rational, and diplomatic, a stabilizing presence in the chaos surrounding Michael. Key highlights: Duvall's understated delivery reflects Tom's role, an outsider by blood but a true family member by loyalty. His moments of quiet concern for Michael's soul, especially when questioning Fredo's fate, highlight his inner conflict. Though sidelined by Michael, Duvall keeps Hagen dignified, loyal, and wise, portraying a man caught between duty and conscience. Duvall's performance ensures that Tom remains the film's quiet conscience, a character who doesn't dominate scenes but always adds moral weight. 6. Lee Strasberg as Hyman Roth, the intellectual enemy. Lee Strasberg, better known as the legendary acting teacher of The Method, brings icy restraint to the role of Hyman Roth, the film's main antagonist. Key highlights: Roth's calm demeanor masks a ruthless mind. Strasberg's quiet delivery and aged frailty make him unpredictable and dangerous. His line, "This is the business we've chosen," becomes a cold mantra for organized crime, and he delivers it with chilling finality. His contrast with Michael, old versus young, calm versus paranoid, adds dramatic tension and elevates him as a worthy adversary. Strasberg, in his only major film role, delivers a memorable performance that enriches the film's power struggle and moral themes. Supporting cast, a fully realized ensemble. Every supporting actor, from G.D. Spradlin as Senator Pat Geary to Bruno Kirby as young Clemenza, contributes authentic, believable performances that flesh out the world of the Corleones. Even small roles feel meaningful and textured. Conclusion: a film driven by performance. The Godfather Part II would not be the masterpiece it is without its stellar cast. From Al Pacino's haunting portrayal of a man consumed by power, to Robert De Niro's stoic and noble ascent, to John Cazale's tragic vulnerability, the film's emotional weight rests on world-class performances. Together, the cast does more than act. They transform the screenplay into living, breathing drama, offering a cinematic experience that is as psychologically deep as it is narratively powerful. Would you like this adapted into a voiceover script, condensed version, or Urdu translation for your YouTube channel content. Introduction: Francis Ford Coppola's visionary command. The direction of The Godfather Part II, under Francis Ford Coppola, is nothing short of masterful. He doesn't simply helm a sequel. He expands and deepens the mythos of the original film while crafting a thematically richer and structurally bolder cinematic experience. Coppola's direction is the guiding hand that shapes the film's tone, mood, pacing, and narrative structure, blending artistry with storytelling in a way that makes Part II not just a continuation, but a refinement and elevation of the Corleone saga. 1. Tone and mood, a deepening of tragedy. Coppola sets the tone of the film early, one of cold isolation, paranoia, and moral erosion. Unlike the warmer hues and romanticized violence of The Godfather, Part II is darker, more somber, and emotionally restrained. From the stark, shadow-heavy interiors of Michael's Lake Tahoe compound to the dusty streets of early 1900s New York, Coppola uses tone and atmosphere to reflect the emotional states of his characters, particularly Michael and Vito. The tone is melancholic and operatic, reinforcing the film's overarching themes of betrayal, legacy, and the decay of family values. Coppola uses quiet tension over action, building dread through long silences and emotionally charged stares rather than outbursts or violence. There is a feeling of inevitable decline that looms over the entire film, a masterful contrast to the rise and fall arc typical of most crime films. 2. Narrative structure, a dual timeline masterpiece. One of Coppola's most daring and innovative choices is the film's non-linear structure, interweaving the past, Vito's rise, with the present, Michael's fall. This parallel narrative doesn't just tell two stories, it creates a thematic mirror. As young Vito builds his empire through honor and loyalty, Michael simultaneously destroys his through fear and mistrust. Coppola juxtaposes scenes to enhance emotional and philosophical contrast. For example, moments of young Vito's empathy are paired with scenes of Michael's cold cruelty. Rather than using flashbacks for exposition, Coppola gives equal weight to both timelines, allowing each to develop organically and inform the other. This dual narrative structure is complex but handled with such clarity and pacing that the audience never feels lost, a testament to Coppola's confident storytelling. 3. Shot composition, a cinematic language of power and isolation. Every frame in The Godfather Part II is deliberate. Coppola, working with cinematographer Gordon Willis, nicknamed the Prince of Darkness, uses shot composition to reflect power dynamics, emotional tension, and thematic depth. Wide shots of Michael alone in expansive rooms emphasize his isolation and emotional detachment. Low-angle shots and strong contrasts between light and shadow give scenes a sense of mythic gravity, echoing Renaissance paintings and classical tragedy. Long, slow takes create a contemplative rhythm, inviting the viewer to linger in each emotional moment, absorbing every subtle gesture or glance. Framing choices often use doorways, windows, and vertical lines to create a sense of entrapment, a visual metaphor for how characters are imprisoned by their choices. Coppola's camera is never flashy. It's controlled, purposeful, and perfectly attuned to the emotional undercurrents of the scene. 4. Pacing, the art of slow-build tension. Coppola's pacing in Part II is deliberately slow, which some viewers may initially find demanding, but it serves a crucial purpose. The measured rhythm allows emotional tension to build organically. It gives space for characters to breathe, reflect, and unravel. Key turning points, like Michael's confrontation with Fredo, or Kay's revelation about the abortion, feel all the more explosive because of the calm that precedes them. The pacing mirrors the psychological descent of the protagonist. It's not about fast action but about emotional erosion, a slow burn that leads to a final, haunting silence. 5. Thematic direction, power, legacy, and the cost of control. Coppola's direction is not just about telling a story, it's about exploring grand themes through cinematic form. Power versus morality. Michael gains control but loses his soul. Vito retains humanity while navigating crime. Coppola never preaches but lets the themes emerge naturally through character behavior and consequences. Family versus business. The Corleone motto, "It's not personal, it's strictly business," is shown to be a lie. Coppola's direction highlights how business decisions fracture and poison personal relationships. Legacy and inheritance. Coppola examines what children inherit, both genetically and psychologically. Michael inherits the throne, but not the soul of Vito. These themes are integrated seamlessly into the visual and narrative structure, making Coppola's vision feel both epic and intimate. 6. Use of sound and silence. Another brilliant directional choice is Coppola's use of silence. Instead of relying on a constant score or dialogue, he often lets the environment speak. The clinking of silverware during tense family dinners. The silence before a betrayal is revealed. The absence of music in emotionally heavy scenes, like Fredo's death or Michael's final solitude. When music is used, it's Nino Rota's haunting score, which carries the emotional history of the Corleone family. Coppola uses it sparingly, allowing it to deepen the mood without overwhelming the scene. 7. Directing performances, subtle, human, and raw. Coppola's greatest strength may lie in how he draws extraordinary performances from his cast. He allows actors to find emotional truth rather than theatricality. He gives space for nonverbal acting, especially important in Pacino's and De Niro's performances. He reportedly fostered a family-like environment on set, which added authenticity to scenes involving betrayal, grief, and trust. His direction respects the intelligence of both his actors and audience, trusting that subtlety, silence, and suggestion often say more than dialogue. Conclusion: a director in full control of his craft. Francis Ford Coppola's direction in The Godfather Part II is a textbook example of cinematic authorship. Every element, tone, shot, performance, pacing, structure, works in harmony to serve a singular, powerful vision. He didn't just direct a film, he sculpted an epic tragedy of power, family, and self-destruction. Through bold artistic choices and quiet emotional truths, Coppola delivers a film that doesn't just entertain. It resonates, haunts, and endures. Would you like this written as a YouTube script, turned into a video voiceover, or translated into Urdu Roman Urdu for your channel facts and review? Introduction: Visual storytelling in shadows. The cinematography of The Godfather Part II, led by the legendary Gordon Willis, plays a pivotal role in shaping the film's tone, atmosphere, and narrative depth. Known as the Prince of Darkness, Willis brought an iconic visual style to the film that not only distinguished it from its predecessor but elevated it into the realm of visual art. His use of lighting, camera angles, and framing does not merely illustrate the story. It expresses the inner lives of the characters, the themes of the narrative, and the passage of time. 1. Lighting, the language of darkness and power. Gordon Willis's use of low-key lighting is perhaps the film's most recognizable visual signature. The heavy shadows and minimalistic illumination help portray the world of the Corleones as one steeped in moral ambiguity, secrecy, and psychological darkness. Michael Corleone is often lit from above or behind, casting parts of his face in shadow. This technique reflects his internal conflict, emotional distance, and increasing isolation. Interiors, especially in the Lake Tahoe compound, are often dimly lit, with practical light sources, lamps, windows, candles, providing an organic feel. The darkness seems to creep inward, mirroring the decay of the family. Willis famously refused to light eyes in certain scenes, particularly for Michael. This gives the character a haunting, unreadable quality, emphasizing his cold detachment and moral corrosion. This deliberate underexposure created a visual metaphor for secrecy, reinforcing the notion that in the Corleone world, what matters most is often hidden in shadow. 2. Framing, isolation, and control. The composition of each shot in The Godfather Part II is meticulously designed to emphasize emotional states, power dynamics, and thematic tension. Michael is frequently framed alone in wide shots, even in rooms filled with people. This reinforces his emotional solitude, even as the head of a powerful family. Doorways, windows, and walls are often used to frame characters within the frame, visually trapping them and symbolizing the inescapable consequences of their choices. In Vito Corleone's storyline, the shots are more open, warmer, and less claustrophobic, visually separating his world, one built on loyalty and survival, from Michael's world of betrayal and paranoia. There is a stark contrast between intimacy and distance throughout the film. Close-ups are rarely used for comfort or warmth. Instead, they are tools for tension, suspicion, or emotional devastation. 3. Camera angles and movement. Stillness speaks volumes. Willis and Coppola favored static camera setups for much of the film, which adds a deliberate, almost ceremonial rhythm to the visual storytelling. The camera is often still, allowing the actors and environment to dominate the frame. This reinforces the theatrical and mythic quality of the Corleone saga. When the camera does move, often with slow, creeping dollies or tracking shots, it heightens suspense and amplifies the psychological weight of the moment. Low-angle shots are used to give characters like Michael a godlike or intimidating presence, reinforcing his authoritarian control over the family and business. This restrained, composed camera work stands in stark contrast to modern crime films, where rapid movement is used for intensity. Here, stillness breeds dread, silence becomes suspense, and the camera becomes a quiet observer of tragedy. 4. Color palette and texture, then and now. Willis uses color grading and film stock to visually differentiate the dual timelines of the film. The early 1900s New York scenes, following young Vito Corleone, are shot in warm, sepia-toned hues, evoking nostalgia and old-world charm. The texture resembles photographs from the turn of the century, giving these scenes a memory-like quality. In contrast, the 1970s Lake Tahoe and Havana scenes are colder, more desaturated, and formal. The blue and gray tones reflect the emotional detachment and sterility of Michael's world. This contrast not only aids audience comprehension of the time shifts but reinforces the film's central thematic duality, the rise of a benevolent leader versus the decline of a cold tyrant. 5. Visually striking moments, symbolism in composition. Numerous scenes stand out as visual set pieces, loaded with symbolic meaning and cinematic beauty. The final scene of Michael sitting alone in the garden, silent and motionless, is visually composed like a painting, the vastness of the landscape highlighting his emotional emptiness and the cost of his choices. Fredo's death on the lake is captured with poetic precision. The serenity of the lake contrasts with the tragic finality of his execution, and the camera's distant framing suggests the coldness and inevitability of the act. The funeral of Vito's mother in Sicily is shot from a distance, the barren hills forming a backdrop that emphasizes loss and desolation. The meeting with Hyman Roth in Havana is staged under harsh sunlight, casting Roth in a blinding light that paradoxically makes him appear both frail and godlike, a visual contrast to Michael's shadowy presence. Each of these scenes uses cinematographic choices to heighten emotional impact, often without the need for dramatic dialogue or music. 6. Use of silence and negative space. The cinematography embraces negative space, large, quiet areas within the frame that emphasize solitude or dominance. When Michael interrogates people, the camera often places him in a vacuum of silence and space, making others seem small or cornered. The use of long corridors, empty rooms, and expansive landscapes visually depicts the emotional void that consumes the characters, especially Michael. The refusal to clutter the frame or overuse handheld techniques reflects a discipline and confidence in visual storytelling that few films have ever matched. Conclusion: a cinematic masterclass in light and shadow. Gordon Willis's cinematography in The Godfather Part II is not just beautiful, it is integral to the film's soul. It elevates the narrative by creating an atmosphere of regal tragedy, tension, and introspection. Through shadow and stillness, contrast and composition, the visual language becomes as expressive as any monologue or musical score. In Willis's hands, guided by Coppola's vision, the camera becomes a silent confessor, bearing witness to the rise of a legend and the emotional downfall of a king. Would you like this version adapted for a YouTube script voiceover, or translated into Urdu or Roman Urdu for your facts and review channel? Introduction: precision in the hands of a master editor. The editing of The Godfather Part II, handled by Barry Malkin, Richard Marx, and Peter Zinner, operates like the beating heart of the film, subtle, rhythmic, and deeply attuned to the emotional currents of the story. Working in close collaboration with Francis Ford Coppola, the editors crafted a film that is not only structurally ambitious, with its dual narrative timelines, but also emotionally resonant, rich in atmosphere, and carefully paced to allow the story to unfold with elegance and gravity. 1. Structure and temporal transitions, a seamless interplay. One of the boldest editorial choices in The Godfather Part II is its non-linear storytelling. The film interweaves two distinct narratives: Michael Corleone's present-day struggle to maintain control of the Corleone empire, Vito Corleone's early life and rise to power in the early 1900s. Rather than relying on abrupt flashbacks or heavy-handed exposition, the editors cut between these timelines with poetic rhythm, finding thematic or emotional bridges that naturally connect scenes. For example, a moment of Michael's growing mistrust may transition into a scene of young Vito building trust in his community, a contrast that deepens the viewer's understanding of both characters. These transitions are not jarring, but elegant and reflective, allowing audiences to draw their own connections between past and present. This dual structure could have easily felt fragmented or confusing in lesser hands, but the editing ensures clarity and cohesion, serving Coppola's grand thematic design. 2. Pacing, the art of the slow burn. The Godfather Part II is a film that embraces slow, deliberate pacing, and this editorial choice is central to its emotional and psychological impact. The editors allow scenes to breathe, often lingering on silent reactions, contemplative pauses, and the quiet weight of decisions being made. This unhurried pace mirrors Michael's internal descent. As his emotional life stalls and fractures, the rhythm of the film mimics his isolation and moral inertia. In Vito's timeline, the pacing is similarly patient, reflecting the methodical nature of his rise, emphasizing family, community, and the formation of personal ethics. There are no rushed moments or artificially accelerated beats. The film trusts its audience to sit with the characters, to observe them not just in action, but in moments of stillness and silence. This creates a more immersive and mature viewing experience. 3. Building suspense and tension through rhythm. Although the pace is slow, the film is far from dull. The editors skillfully build suspense through timing. In scenes involving betrayal, assassination plots, or confrontations, long pauses and delayed reactions increase tension. A classic example is the scene where Michael confronts Fredo during New Year's Eve in Havana. The editing holds the moment, letting the realization land, giving space for shock and heartbreak to settle. Similarly, the Senate hearing sequences are edited with a focus on rhythm and contrast. Calm, controlled testimonies are followed by private scenes of panic or manipulation. The tension in Part 2 doesn't come from fast cuts or action sequences. It comes from editorial restraint, from holding a shot a second longer, from knowing when to linger and when to cut away. 4. Parallel storytelling, symmetry in emotion and theme. Another triumph of the editing lies in how it balances the emotional arcs of both timelines. As young Vito Corleone earns the respect of his neighbors and builds a life for his family, the editing gives these scenes a nostalgic, almost hopeful rhythm. In contrast, Michael's storyline is increasingly fragmented. Scenes feel colder, tighter, and more oppressive, reflecting his paranoia and moral collapse. By alternating between these stories at key narrative moments, the editors draw a mirror between the two men. The pacing of these cuts is not symmetrical in a mechanical sense, but emotional and thematic, always supporting the viewer's sense of reflection, contrast, or irony. 5. Emotional impact, holding on pain and isolation. The editors excel at using rhythm and timing to maximize emotional payoff. One of the most powerful examples is the final sequence, where Michael sits alone, reflecting on a happier memory with his family. The editing creates a jarring emotional contrast, cutting from a warm, bustling family dinner to the stark silence of Michael's solitude. The scene of Fredo's death is also expertly edited. The build-up is slow, almost serene, with soft music and scenic visuals. But the moment itself is cut quickly and cleanly, with minimal drama, making it even more tragic and emotionally brutal. By resisting melodrama and trusting in subtlety, the editing ensures that emotional moments linger longer in the viewer's heart. 6. Length and audience engagement, demanding but rewarding. At over 3 hours, the film is undeniably long. However, the editing maintains engagement through its emotional layering, narrative complexity, and consistent tone. There are few, if any, wasted scenes. Every moment contributes to character development, plot progression, or thematic resonance. For attentive viewers, the rhythm becomes hypnotic, pulling them deeper into the Corleone world. While modern audiences may be more accustomed to faster edits, the deliberate pacing of Part 2 is part of its artistic identity, encouraging a different kind of viewing experience, thoughtful, reflective, and emotionally immersive. Conclusion: a masterclass in narrative rhythm. The editing and pacing of The Godfather Part II represent a masterclass in cinematic rhythm and structure. It is an example of how editing is not just about cutting footage, but about crafting emotion, atmosphere, and meaning. Through deliberate pacing, seamless transitions, and intelligent structuring, the editors allow the film's dual timelines to resonate in harmony, enhancing its thematic depth, character development, and emotional weight. The result is not only a compelling narrative but a deeply moving and unforgettable cinematic experience. Introduction: a haunting symphony of power and loss. The soundtrack of The Godfather Part II, composed by the legendary Nino Rota, with contributions by Carmine Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's father, is an essential component of the film's soul. Unlike conventional soundtracks that merely underscore action or emotion, The Godfather Part II score is a narrative force in itself, one that elevates mood, deepens character, and reinforces theme. The music does not draw attention to itself but instead flows naturally with the film's emotional currents, providing a haunting and melancholic atmosphere that mirrors the saga's tragic arc. 1. Thematic consistency, returning motifs from Part 1. One of the most powerful aspects of the score is its musical continuity with the original Godfather film. Nino Rota brings back several iconic motifs from Part 1, ensuring a sense of thematic and emotional unity. The main title, The Godfather Waltz, with its mournful trumpet and solemn rhythm, appears throughout the film, subtly altered to reflect Michael's growing darkness. It no longer feels majestic. It now carries an undertone of isolation and foreboding. The love theme originally associated with Michael and Apollonia in Part 1 is used more sparingly, and when it is, it feels bittersweet and ghostly, evoking memories of innocence lost. These motifs serve as musical memory triggers, reminding the audience of what has come before while casting those memories in a new, darker emotional light. 2. New musical identity, the immigrant theme and young Vito. While Michael's story is rooted in continuity, Vito Corleone's backstory in the early 20th century is given a distinct musical identity through new themes composed by Carmine Coppola. The most prominent of these is the immigrant theme, played with mandolins, accordions, and strings. It's a melodic, nostalgic piece that evokes the struggle, hope, and resilience of the immigrant experience. This theme is lush and romantic in tone, capturing the optimism and warmth of Vito's rise, in stark contrast to the cold, minor-key music associated with Michael. Its instrumentation reflects the ethnic and cultural background of early Italian-American life in New York, giving Vito's world a humanity and charm that sets it apart from the chilling tones of Michael's narrative. This musical dichotomy mirrors the film's narrative structure, effectively distinguishing past from present not only in visuals but through sound. 3. Emotional underscoring, music as inner dialogue. The score in The Godfather Part II often functions like a second voice, expressing what characters cannot say. Michael, a man of few words, is often accompanied by minimal, slow, and somber strings or horns. These moments reflect his inner turmoil, regret, and loneliness, especially as he loses his family and humanity. During key emotional scenes, like Michael kissing Fredo or silently reminiscing about the past, the music swells with aching melancholy, helping the audience feel the emotional devastation masked by stoic expressions. The composers understand that silence is also a form of music. There are many moments when the score is deliberately withheld, allowing silence and ambient sound, wind, footsteps, distant conversations, to dominate. These choices intensify realism and tension, making the moments when music returns all the more powerful. 4. Musical atmosphere, mood and place. Beyond theme and character, the score masterfully enhances the film's atmosphere and setting. In Havana, the music incorporates subtle Latin influences, soft percussion, trumpets, and rhythmic flair, to root the narrative in its exotic, politically charged backdrop. Yet even here, the music maintains a sense of unease, reflecting Michael's suspicion and discomfort. In the Sicilian flashbacks, music feels traditional and earthy, folk instruments playing slow, processional melodies that evoke a timeless cultural weight. The Lake Tahoe compound, in contrast, is often scored with minimalism or silence, reinforcing the cold, emotionally barren world Michael inhabits. This nuanced use of location-based scoring enriches the world building without overwhelming it, maintaining a balance between musicality and subtlety. 5. Silence and restraint, a powerful absence. Perhaps one of the most masterful aspects of the score is its strategic use of silence. During tense conversations, betrayals, or acts of violence, the absence of music heightens the gravity of each moment. This absence allows the dialogue, performances, and ambient sounds to stand alone, building suspense in a way that no score could. A prime example is Fredo's execution scene. Much of the moment is played in near silence, with only ambient natural sound. When the music does return, it is mournful and restrained, reinforcing the tragic finality without melodrama. This approach shows the filmmaker's confidence in the storytelling. They don't need music to tell the audience how to feel. When the score does appear, it feels earned, and its emotional impact is magnified. 6. Overall impact, subtle, elegant, and timeless. The soundtrack of The Godfather Part II is elegant and deliberately unobtrusive, serving the story without ever overpowering it. It avoids sentimentality, instead opting for emotional complexity and restraint. It enhances the dual narrative structure, differentiates characters through theme, and connects the film with its predecessor while expanding the musical landscape. It is a soundtrack that grows in impact with each viewing, as its cues become emotionally associated with characters and moments. Rather than attempting to overwhelm the audience with grand orchestration, Rota and Coppola deliver a musical experience that mirrors the film itself, powerful, intelligent, and deeply melancholic. Conclusion: music as memory and mourning. In The Godfather Part II, the music is not just background, it's a poetic narration of family, power, loss, and legacy. Through recurring themes, cultural instrumentation, and an expert use of silence, the score becomes a mirror of the characters' souls. Rota and Coppola didn't just write music for a movie. They composed a tragic opera in whispers, one that lingers long after the final frame fades to black. Introduction, a symphony of power, memory, and melancholy. The soundtrack and score of The Godfather Part II, composed primarily by Nino Rota, with contributions by Carmine Coppola, is an integral pillar of the film's atmosphere. It is neither loud nor attention-seeking. Instead, it flows like a subtle undercurrent, enriching the emotional and thematic tapestry of the narrative. Just as the cinematography paints in shadows and light, the score speaks through silence, longing, and restrained elegance, heightening the film's emotional resonance and deepening its mythic quality. 1. Musical continuity, building on the legacy of Part I. One of the most powerful aspects of The Godfather Part II's music is how it draws from, and expands upon, the iconic themes of the first film. The main Godfather waltz returns, a haunting, minor key motif that represents the Corleone family's legacy, power, and burden. It is often used in scenes featuring Michael, subtly reinforcing his inheritance of the throne, and the curse that comes with it. The score never feels like a repetition but rather an evolution. As Michael's world grows colder and more corrupted, the familiar melodies become slower, sadder, and more ominous, mirroring the transformation of the Corleone dynasty. This continuity helps establish a cohesive musical universe, while allowing for emotional progression and deepening complexity. 2. New themes, Vito's journey and cultural identity. Rota and Carmine Coppola introduce new musical themes to reflect Vito Corleone's origin story, which is told through flashbacks to Sicily and early 20th century New York. These compositions often feature Italian folk instruments, mandolins, accordions, flutes, giving Vito's scenes a distinct cultural identity. The melodies are warm, nostalgic, and imbued with innocence and hope. One standout theme is the immigrant theme, a mournful, lyrical piece that plays during Vito's early days in America. It captures both the pain of exile and the dignity of survival, and is arguably one of the most emotionally powerful motifs in the film. This musical separation of Michael and Vito's timelines, one cold and orchestral, the other warm and folkloric, mirrors the emotional and moral divide between father and son. 3. Emotional underscoring, music as mood and memory. Throughout the film, the score acts as an emotional guide, underlining key moments without ever overpowering them. It enhances scenes with subtlety and grace. During moments of betrayal or confrontation, the music dips into deep, slow strings or sparse piano notes, allowing tension to simmer rather than erupt. The farewell between Michael and Fredo on the boat, a moment loaded with dread and quiet sorrow, is scored with restraint, using silence and ambient sounds to greater effect than bombastic music ever could. In the final scene, when Michael sits alone in the snowy stillness of his garden, there is no grand orchestration, just the distant echo of memory, leaving the emotional devastation to speak through quiet reflection. The score often employs musical silence as a deliberate tool, allowing the dialogue, setting, and performance to lead, while the music hovers just beneath the surface, present, but never pushy. 4. Recurring motifs, themes of power, loss, and regret. The score employs recurring musical motifs not only to link the film to its predecessor, but to deepen its internal emotional logic. The Godfather theme signals tradition and control, and its return, often slowed down or played in a minor variation, serves as a reminder of the corruption and decline of Michael's soul. Vito's motifs recur at moments of generational reflection, often during transitions between the two timelines, bridging past and present through musical language. These recurring cues also act like emotional bookmarks, subtly reminding the audience of what was lost and what was gained, at what cost. This kind of thematic scoring enhances the film's psychological layers and encourages introspection. It is music used not to instruct but to echo, to haunt. 5. Cultural authenticity and personalization. The inclusion of authentic Sicilian and Italian-American musical styles in the score is not mere decoration. It adds cultural and narrative specificity. In scenes set in early 1900s Sicily, traditional instruments and melodies help root Vito's story in his homeland, providing an emotional and historical context. The music used in celebratory scenes, such as family gatherings or public festivities, draws from real Italian folk traditions. This creates a vivid contrast to Michael's present-day reality, where such joyful music is notably absent. These musical choices give the film a deep sense of place and heritage, making the cultural loss and transformation across generations all the more poignant. 6. Balance and restraint, never overbearing. One of the most remarkable qualities of the Godfather Part II score is its restraint. Nino Rota and Carmine Coppola understood that the music should serve the story, not overshadow it. The score is used sparingly, always with purpose. There are long stretches of dialogue or silence where music is intentionally absent, allowing tension to build naturally. When the music does appear, it acts like a ghost, whispering truths the characters cannot say aloud, reinforcing the themes of memory, loyalty, betrayal, and fate. This balance is essential to the film's tone. Too much music would risk melodrama, too little would lose emotional depth. Part 2 finds the perfect equilibrium. Conclusion, a soundtrack that echoes through generations. The soundtrack and score of The Godfather Part II are masterworks of musical storytelling, marked by emotional subtlety, cultural depth, and thematic precision. Nino Rota and Carmine Coppola don't merely accompany the film. They infuse it with soul, with memory, and with mournful beauty. Through its recurring motifs, restrained use, and cultural authenticity, the score becomes an invisible narrator, one that whispers the tragedy of power and the silence of regret. It is as much a part of the film's identity as its iconic characters or shadow-drenched visuals. Would you like this adept introduction? A profound exploration of power, family, and the American dream. The Godfather Part II is a cinematic masterpiece that goes far beyond a traditional gangster story. It is a deep and layered meditation on themes such as power, loyalty, corruption, family, identity, and the elusive nature of the American dream. Through its parallel narratives of young Vito Corleone's rise and Michael Corleone's moral and emotional decline, the film explores how the pursuit of power and survival exacts a profound cost, both personally and culturally. 1. The corrupting nature of power. One of the film's central themes is the inevitability of corruption when power is sought and held. Michael's story reveals that even with the best intentions, the exercise of power isolates and corrupts. His efforts to protect and expand the family empire gradually strip away his humanity, trust, and emotional connection to those around him. The film portrays power not as a triumph but as a burden and a trap, a force that compels Michael into ruthless decisions, culminating in betrayal and loneliness. This message is communicated with subtlety and complexity. It never feels preachy or forced. Instead, it emerges naturally from Michael's character arc and the film's somber tone. 2. Family and loyalty, foundations and fractures. Family is both the foundation and the fault line of the narrative. Vito's storyline celebrates family, loyalty, and community as vital forces for survival and identity, showing how he builds his empire by protecting and serving his loved ones. In contrast, Michael's narrative reveals how these very ties erode under the weight of ambition, paranoia, and betrayal. His growing distrust leads to tragic rifts, especially with his brother Fredo, highlighting the theme that power can destroy even the strongest family bonds. The film thus paints a nuanced portrait of family, one that encompasses love, obligation, sacrifice, but also violence and loss. 3. The American dream, promise and illusion. Through Vito's immigrant journey and Michael's reign, the film examines the American dream's dual nature. Young Vito's story is an idealized vision of hard work, resilience, and hope, portraying America as a place where a poor immigrant can rise through merit and courage. Michael's story, however, exposes the dark underside of that dream, where success involves moral compromise, corruption, and the abandonment of one's roots and values. The film suggests that the American dream is complex and often contradictory. It offers opportunity but at a cost, often leading to disillusionment and loss. 4. Identity, legacy, and the past. The film continually questions how much individuals are shaped by their past and whether they can escape their family legacy. Vito's rise emphasizes the importance of heritage, culture, and learned values. Michael, in contrast, struggles with the weight of his father's legacy and the choices he must make to protect it, yet he becomes increasingly alienated from that heritage. The recurring flashbacks and parallels between father and son emphasize that the past is both a guide and a prison, shaping identity but also limiting freedom. 5. Moral ambiguity and the nature of justice. Unlike clear-cut tales of good versus evil, The Godfather Part II revels in moral ambiguity. Characters operate in shades of grey, with moments of tenderness and brutality often existing side by side. Michael's decisions, while ruthless, are framed as necessary in a brutal world, yet the emotional toll reveals their cost. This complexity invites viewers to reflect on questions of justice, loyalty, and survival, avoiding easy answers and encouraging contemplation. 6. Effective communication of themes. The film's themes emerge organically through narrative, character, dialogue, and visual storytelling. There is no heavy-handed messaging. Instead, the viewer is invited to interpret and feel the emotional resonance. The dual narrative structure itself reinforces the themes of legacy, power, and moral consequence. The subtle use of symbolism, silence, and visual motifs deepens the thematic impact without overwhelming the story. Conclusion: a lasting intellectual and emotional impact. The Godfather Part II is a thought-provoking exploration of human nature, family, and the cost of power. Its themes remain relevant and compelling decades after its release, leaving a lasting impression by portraying the complexity of ambition and the tragedy of lost innocence. The film's ability to communicate these ideas with nuance and emotional depth, without ever feeling forced or didactic, is a key reason for its enduring status as one of cinema's greatest achievements. Would you like this detailed analysis adapted into a YouTube video script, or translated into Urdu or Roman Urdu for your Facts and Review channel? Introduction: a film rooted in practical craftsmanship. The Godfather Part II was released in 1974, a time when digital visual effects and CGI technology were either non-existent or in very early stages. Therefore, the film's approach to visual effects is deeply grounded in practical effects, set design, lighting, and in-camera techniques rather than digital enhancements. This traditional craftsmanship is essential to its timeless and authentic feel. 1. Practical effects and in-camera techniques. The film's visual effects mostly rely on meticulous practical effects, expertly integrated into real sets and locations. Period-accurate set design and props recreate early 20th century New York and mid-century America with remarkable detail and authenticity. This dedication to realism immerses the viewer in the Corleone family's world without relying on overt spectacle. Effects like smoke, fire, weather conditions, rain, fog, and staged violence are all executed with practical methods that blend seamlessly into the story, never drawing attention away from the characters or narrative. For instance, the famous scene of Vito Corleone as a young man walking through the streets of Little Italy benefits from careful lighting, costume, and background crowd work, creating a vivid, lived-in environment that feels natural and immersive. 2. Minimal use of visual effects for storytelling. When effects are used to enhance storytelling or create specific moments, they are subtle and restrained. The film occasionally uses composite shots and matte paintings to extend sets or create the illusion of large buildings and neighborhoods, but these are done so skillfully that the viewer is rarely aware of them as effects. For example, wide shots of 1900s New York or Havana rely on matte paintings and extended set pieces that blend perfectly with live action. The absence of flashy or obvious effects keeps the audience focused on character and plot, supporting the film's grounded, naturalistic tone. 3. Absence of digital effects and CGI. Because the film predates CGI, all effects are analog and manual, which results in a tangible texture and authenticity that digital effects sometimes struggle to replicate. No risk of distracting or artificial-looking effects, since the film's visual language is built around practical artistry. The effects contribute to a cohesive and immersive visual style, consistent with Francis Ford Coppola's vision of a cinematic world that feels real rather than constructed. 4. Enhancement of immersion without distraction. The practical effects in The Godfather Part II serve the story rather than overwhelm it. They enhance atmosphere, whether the bustling streets of immigrant neighborhoods or the tense, shadowed interiors of Corleone family meetings, without pulling focus from the performances or narrative. The restrained approach to effects helps maintain the film's dramatic tension and emotional intimacy, allowing viewers to fully invest in the characters' psychological journeys. In scenes of violence or tension, effects like blood squibs or staged gunfire are realistic and understated, reinforcing the film's gritty tone. 5. Comparison to modern digital effects. When viewed from a modern perspective, the absence of CGI may seem like a limitation, but it actually strengthens the film's timeless quality, as it relies on practical craftsmanship and storytelling rather than technological spectacle. Avoids the occasional pitfall of digital effects feeling out of place or overly stylized, which can detract from narrative emotion. Shows how effective traditional techniques can be when combined with excellent direction, cinematography, and production design. Conclusion: seamless practical effects uphold the film's authenticity. The Godfather Part II uses visual effects sparingly and wisely, relying on masterful practical effects and in-camera artistry that blend naturally into its meticulously crafted world. This approach enhances immersion without distraction, supporting the film's emotional and narrative depth. Rather than dazzling viewers with spectacle, the effects quietly uphold the film's atmosphere of realism, mood, and historical authenticity, contributing to its enduring reputation as a cinematic classic. Introduction: a film rooted in practical and traditional effects. The Godfather Part II, released in 1974, predates the era of modern CGI and digital visual effects. Instead, it relies almost entirely on practical effects, in-camera techniques, and traditional filmmaking craftsmanship to create its immersive world. This reliance on tangible, real-world methods shapes the film's authentic atmosphere and timeless aesthetic. Visual effects blending naturally into the film's world. The visual effects in The Godfather Part II are seamlessly integrated and unobtrusive, designed specifically to serve the story without drawing attention to themselves. The film's visual effects, such as period-accurate set extensions, matte paintings, and environmental effects, blend perfectly into the live-action footage. For instance, recreations of early 20th century New York and 1950s Havana employ matte paintings and practical set design that evoke a lived-in, believable environment. Effects like smoke, fire, staged gunfire, and weather conditions are executed practically, helping to enhance immersion by making the film's world tactile and real. This natural blending ensures that viewers are not distracted by the effects. Instead, they are pulled deeper into the narrative and setting, enhancing immersion rather than distracting. The visual effects serve as subtle tools to support storytelling and atmosphere rather than as spectacle. Because the effects are understated and grounded in realism, they heighten the film's mood and tone without overshadowing character-driven drama. For example, the practical use of lighting and weather effects adds to the film's somber, tense mood, reinforcing themes of isolation and power. The film's violence and action scenes rely on realistic squibs and practical stunts rather than flashy effects, lending credibility and emotional weight to these moments. Practical effects compared to digital effects. Given the film's production era, there is an absence of digital visual effects or CGI. This absence is actually a strength rather than a limitation. Practical effects provide a physicality and texture that often surpass digital effects in emotional impact and authenticity. Unlike many modern films that can risk overusing CGI, sometimes resulting in artificial or distracting visuals, The Godfather Part II maintains a grounded visual language that feels consistent and real. Matte paintings and camera tricks used to extend environments showcase the skill and artistry of traditional filmmaking, producing convincing visuals without modern technology. Summary: craftsmanship over technology. In summary, The Godfather Part II uses visual effects sparingly but effectively, focusing on practical techniques that blend naturally with the film's world. These effects enhance immersion by reinforcing the authentic period settings and atmospheric mood without ever distracting the audience. The film's commitment to traditional craftsmanship over digital spectacle contributes greatly to its timeless visual appeal and emotional resonance, supporting the storytelling with subtlety and precision rather than grandeur. Would you like me to help you draft this as a YouTube script, or translate it into Urdu or Roman Urdu for your channel? Introduction: crafting authentic worlds of power and legacy. The Godfather Part II is widely praised not only for its storytelling but also for its exceptional production design and authentic locations, which play a crucial role in immersing the audience in the mid-20th century American mafia world. Through meticulous attention to detail in sets, props, and carefully chosen locations, the film constructs a rich, believable universe that deepens the narrative and enhances the emotional stakes. 1. Immersive, historically accurate production design. The production design in The Godfather Part II is a masterclass in historical authenticity and atmospheric detail. The film spans multiple eras, from early 1900s Sicily and New York to 1950s New York and Havana, Cuba. Each period is represented with distinctive, accurate architecture, interiors, costumes, and props that firmly root the story in its respective time. Set designers recreated the Corleone family compound, Italian immigrant neighborhoods, lavish New York offices, and Havana's vibrant, politically charged environment with painstaking precision. The attention to period-accurate furniture, lighting fixtures, household items, clothing, and even small details like cigarette lighters or telephones builds a convincing visual tapestry that makes the world feel lived in and genuine. 2. Locations that add depth and emotional resonance. The choice of real locations and expertly designed sets significantly enriches the film's storytelling. New York City locations capture both the immigrant struggle and the opulent rise of mafia power. The gritty streets of Little Italy contrast sharply with the luxurious Corleone estate, visually emphasizing themes of ambition, social mobility, and class tension. The scenes set in Havana provide a vibrant, exotic backdrop that contrasts with the cold, calculating atmosphere of New York. The location underscores the political and cultural tensions of the time, reinforcing Michael Corleone's expanding but precarious empire. The use of authentic exterior and interior locations allows the film to explore characters' psychology visually. The vast, isolated Corleone compound mirrors Michael's emotional isolation, while bustling streets and cramped apartments evoke the pressure and chaos of immigrant life. 3. Props as storytelling tools. Every prop in the film contributes to character development and thematic depth. Michael's office is carefully decorated with powerful symbols, dark wood furniture, fine art, and books that convey his wealth, authority, and a sense of solemnity. Vito's humble surroundings in the flashback sequences are simpler, emphasizing his modest origins and the theme of rising from nothing. Small details, such as the family photo albums, weapons, or even the type of drinks consumed, add layers of meaning and cultural specificity, enriching the viewer's understanding of character and context. 4. Visual composition enhances mood and theme. The sets and locations are not just realistic but also visually compelling and thematically resonant. The film's use of lighting and color in these spaces heightens mood. For example, the shadowy interiors evoke secrecy and danger, while brighter outdoor scenes in Sicily reflect hope and origin. The contrast between cramped, shadow-filled interiors and open, sunlit exteriors parallels the film's exploration of confinement versus freedom, tradition versus change. 5. Seamless integration with cinematography and direction. The set design works hand-in-hand with the film's cinematography and direction. Long tracking shots through the Corleone estate or streets emphasize power and control, while close-ups within intimate settings highlight personal conflict. The production design supports the film's non-linear narrative structure by visually distinguishing between timelines and locations, helping the audience navigate the complex story. Conclusion: a believable and compelling world through meticulous design. In The Godfather Part II, production design and locations are foundational to the film's immersive power. The carefully constructed sets, authentic props, and evocative real-world locations create a rich, believable world that amplifies the story's emotional and thematic weight. By making every setting visually compelling and contextually meaningful, the film transports viewers into the heart of the Corleone legacy, reinforcing the epic scope and tragic depth of the narrative. Would you like me to help you convert this into a YouTube video script or translate it into Urdu or Roman Urdu for your channel content? Introduction: masterful writing that elevates the story. The Godfather Part II features a screenplay renowned for its engaging, natural, and unforgettable dialogue. The script, co-written by Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo, continues the legacy of the first film by combining sharp wit, emotional depth, and profound thematic resonance, creating a narrative voice that is both intimate and epic. 1. Dialogue that feels authentic and natural. The dialogue in The Godfather Part II excels in capturing the authentic voices of its characters. Each character speaks in a manner true to their background, status, and personality. From the measured, authoritative tone of Michael Corleone to the humble, hopeful speech of young Vito, the script ensures that dialogue feels lived in and believable. Conversations range from quiet, tense exchanges to forceful confrontations, reflecting the emotional stakes of each scene without ever feeling forced or overly theatrical. The use of Italian phrases, cultural references, and period-specific language grounds the dialogue in its setting, adding layers of realism and cultural texture. 2. Sharp wit and subtle humor. While The Godfather Part II is largely a serious drama, the script contains moments of dry, understated wit that enrich character interactions. Characters occasionally use irony or sarcasm to reveal their intelligence, frustrations, or sense of humor, adding nuance without breaking the film's somber tone. These moments provide brief relief from tension and deepen the character's complexity, showing that even in a brutal world, there is room for subtle humor. 3. Emotional weight and impactful writing. The script is rich with emotionally charged dialogue that captures the tragedy, loyalty, and betrayal at the heart of the story. Conversations between Michael and his family members reveal profound themes of trust, power, and isolation. For example, the tense and heartbreaking exchange between Michael and his brother Fredo encapsulates years of betrayal and familial pain. The script often uses silence and pauses as effectively as spoken words, allowing emotion to resonate beneath the surface. Moments of quiet reflection, such as Michael's internal struggles, are conveyed through sparse yet powerful dialogue that hints at his moral decay and loneliness. 4. Standout lines and memorable quotes. The Godfather Part II contains iconic lines that have become deeply ingrained in popular culture and define the film's themes. Lines like "keep your friends close, but your enemies closer," spoken by Michael, succinctly capture the film's themes of mistrust and strategic power. Other memorable quotes reveal character motivations and thematic depth, such as Vito's reflections on justice, loyalty, and survival. These lines are delivered with conviction and often carry double meanings, inviting viewers to reflect on the complex moral landscape of the story. 5. Script structure supports narrative complexity. The screenplay's non-linear structure, interweaving Vito's rise and Michael's reign, is supported by clear and purposeful dialogue that helps the audience navigate time shifts and thematic parallels. The dialogue in each timeline distinctly reflects the era and character's mindset, reinforcing the film's exploration of legacy and change. Transitions between timelines are smooth, aided by dialogue cues that maintain narrative clarity without slowing pacing. Conclusion: dialogue as a pillar of storytelling. The dialogue and script of The Godfather Part II are cornerstones of the film's success, offering a blend of naturalism, emotional power, and memorable writing. The screenplay's ability to convey complex themes, develop richly layered characters, and create moments of lasting impact makes it a masterful work of cinematic storytelling. Its dialogue resonates deeply, shaping the film's tone and reinforcing its status as a timeless classic. Introduction: mastery and evolution of the crime drama genre. The Godfather Part II stands as a landmark in the crime drama genre, both following and innovating its conventions. While firmly rooted in the mafia and gangster film tradition, it transcends typical genre cliches by deepening thematic complexity and character exploration, offering a fresh, sophisticated take on organized crime and family dynamics. 1. Respect for genre foundations. The film embraces classic crime drama conventions. It revolves around the rise and fall of a mafia family, showcasing power struggles, loyalty, betrayal, and violence, all staple elements of the genre. Key genre motifs such as organized crime operations, political corruption, and moral ambiguity are central to the story, delivering familiar territory that fans expect. Iconic genre moments like tense negotiations, assassinations, and family gatherings steeped in tradition anchor the film firmly within its roots. 2. Subversion and innovation of genre tropes. However, The Godfather Part II subverts many genre cliches through its narrative structure, character focus, and thematic depth. Instead of glorifying the gangster lifestyle, the film presents a bleak, morally complex portrait of power's corrosive effects, emphasizing psychological and emotional consequences rather than just action and crime. The dual narrative, showing both young Vito Corleone's rise and Michael Corleone's decline, introduces a layered temporal structure uncommon in typical crime films, adding a reflective and historical dimension. Rather than relying on clear-cut heroes or villains, the film offers nuanced characters with conflicting motivations, challenging the black and white morality often seen in the genre. 3. Balance of drama, suspense, and action. The film masterfully balances multiple tonal elements. Drama dominates, focusing on family dynamics, loyalty, and betrayal. Emotional and psychological struggles form the core of the narrative, giving the film weight beyond typical crime thrillers. Suspense is built through meticulous plotting and tense character interactions rather than fast-paced action. Moments of quiet menace and looming threats create a slow-burning tension that captivates the audience. Action sequences are sparingly used but highly impactful, reserved for key turning points like assassination attempts or confrontations. This restraint adds realism and gravity to violent moments. The film also weaves in subtle humor and irony, often through sharp dialogue and character exchanges, offering brief relief and enhancing character depth without disrupting the serious tone. 4. Fresh ideas within the genre framework. The Godfather Part II introduces fresh thematic ideas that elevate it beyond a standard crime saga. Its exploration of the American dream's dark side, immigrant struggles, and the costs of power and legacy provide intellectual depth unusual for gangster films. The focus on family as both a source of strength and destruction adds emotional complexity and universality. The film's political and economic context, especially in the Cuban subplot, broadens the genre's scope, connecting personal crime stories to larger historical forces. 5. Impact on the genre and legacy. The Godfather Part II set a new standard for what crime dramas could achieve, inspiring future filmmakers to blend genre storytelling with serious character study and thematic ambition. Its rich character development, intricate plotting, and sophisticated tone continue to influence how gangster stories are told, shifting the genre toward more nuanced, mature narratives. Conclusion: a genre masterpiece that honors and transcends. In summary, The Godfather Part II skillfully balances respect for crime drama conventions with innovative storytelling and thematic depth. It neither simply follows genre cliches nor abandons its roots, but rather redefines what the genre can be: intense, introspective, and emotionally resonant. This blend of tradition and fresh perspective cements the film's place as a timeless masterpiece within the crime genre and cinema as a whole. Introduction: a rich tapestry of social and cultural reflection. The Godfather Part II transcends its crime drama surface to offer a profound social and cultural commentary on mid-20th century America and beyond. Through its layered narrative and character arcs, the film explores complex issues like immigration, power dynamics, corruption, family, and identity, weaving these themes naturally into its story without feeling didactic or forced. 1. Immigration and the American Dream. One of the most powerful social themes in the film is its exploration of the immigrant experience and the pursuit of the American dream. The parallel narratives of young Vito Corleone's rise and Michael's contemporary reign illustrate different facets of this dream. Vito's journey from poverty-stricken Sicily to powerful mafia patriarch represents the hope, resilience, and ambition of many immigrants seeking better lives in America. The film realistically portrays the harsh realities of immigrant life: poverty, discrimination, and struggle, juxtaposed with Vito's eventual attainment of power, highlighting both the possibilities and the moral compromises involved. This commentary is woven organically into the narrative, not as explicit political statements but as lived experiences shaping character motivations and societal context. 2. Power, corruption, and the cost of ambition. The Godfather Part II deeply interrogates the corrupting influence of power and the moral decay it engenders. Michael's trajectory from reluctant family head to ruthless crime boss reflects the complex dynamics of power, illustrating how ambition often leads to isolation, betrayal, and loss of humanity. The film portrays political corruption and the intertwining of organized crime with legitimate institutions, highlighted by Michael's dealings in Cuba and his manipulation of government officials, as a commentary on systemic rot and the blurred lines between legality and criminality. These themes are integral to the story's emotional core, portrayed through nuanced character arcs rather than overt moralizing. 3. Family, loyalty, and betrayal. At its heart, the film explores family as both a source of strength and destruction. The narrative examines how loyalty within the Corleone family is tested and fractured, revealing the tension between personal ambition and familial bonds. The painful betrayal of Michael by his brother Fredo encapsulates the tragic cost of power and paranoia, while Vito's story emphasizes the founding ideals of loyalty and community. These familial themes resonate universally, grounding the crime story in intimate human drama. 4. Politics and historical context. The film incorporates real-world political events and social upheavals to deepen its commentary. The Cuban Revolution subplot situates Michael's empire building within a broader historical upheaval, highlighting the fragility of power and the impact of geopolitical forces on individual lives. The film touches on racial and social inequalities subtly through its depiction of immigrant neighborhoods and societal structures, reflecting broader American cultural tensions of the mid-20th century. These elements are integrated naturally, serving the plot and character motivations without appearing extraneous or preachy. 5. Handling of sensitive and complex topics. The Godfather Part II handles complex and sensitive issues with subtlety, nuance, and emotional depth. Rather than delivering explicit political commentary, the film invites viewers to reflect on the consequences of ambition, power, and assimilation through its characters' experiences. Themes of violence, betrayal, and moral ambiguity are portrayed realistically, avoiding glamorization or simplistic judgments. This respectful treatment contributes to the film's lasting relevance and critical acclaim. Conclusion: a subtle, deep social and cultural critique. In sum, The Godfather Part II offers a rich, multi-layered social and cultural commentary that emerges organically from its narrative and characters. It thoughtfully explores immigration, power, corruption, family, and politics, weaving these complex themes seamlessly into its story. The film's subtlety and depth in handling sensitive topics help it transcend mere genre entertainment to become a profound reflection on human nature and society, securing its status as a timeless cinematic masterpiece. Introduction, a film that deeply connects with its audience. The Godfather Part II is widely regarded as not only a cinematic masterpiece but also as a film that emotionally resonates powerfully with its audience. Through its compelling storytelling, richly drawn characters, and thematic depth, it elicits a wide range of emotions, captivating viewers, provoking strong reactions, and inviting reflection long after the credits roll. 1. Emotional resonance through complex characters and story. The film's audience engagement is largely driven by its complex, humanized characters and their emotionally charged journeys. Michael Corleone's tragic transformation from a family protector to a deeply isolated, morally compromised figure evokes both sympathy and discomfort. His internal conflicts and the consequences of his choices invite viewers to grapple with themes of loyalty, power, and loss. The parallel story of young Vito Corleone's rise from poverty to power adds a hopeful and nostalgic dimension, balancing the darker tones and offering a multi-generational perspective. The familial relationships, especially the fraught bond between Michael and Fredo, are portrayed with emotional honesty, eliciting empathy and sometimes heartbreak from the audience. 2. Moments that elicit strong reactions. The Godfather Part II contains many scenes designed to provoke intense emotional responses. Moments of shock and tension, such as violent confrontations and betrayals, keep viewers on edge and heighten suspense. The film's quieter, more introspective scenes, like Michael's somber reflections or the poignant family gatherings, often evoke sadness and contemplation. Subtle uses of irony and dry humor, particularly in dialogue, occasionally offer brief relief and even laughter, enhancing the emotional texture without undermining the overall gravity. 3. Engagement through themes and moral complexity. The film's rich thematic layers encourage viewers to engage intellectually and emotionally. Themes of power, corruption, family loyalty, and identity provoke deep reflection on human nature and societal dynamics. The morally ambiguous nature of the characters and storylines invites audiences to question notions of right and wrong, making the viewing experience thought-provoking and often unsettling. This complexity fosters active audience participation, as viewers analyze characters' motives and the implications of their actions. 4. Invitation to discussion and repeat viewings. The Godfather Part II is known for inspiring ongoing discussion and analysis among audiences and critics alike. Its intricate plot and layered character development reward close attention and often reveal new details or insights upon repeated viewings. Fans frequently debate character motivations, narrative choices, and thematic interpretations, making the film a lasting topic of conversation. The film's rich symbolism and nuanced storytelling encourage viewers to revisit it multiple times to fully appreciate its artistry. 5. Cultural impact and lasting engagement. The film's cultural significance and iconic status mean it resonates across generations, sustaining engagement through its influence on popular culture and cinema. Memorable quotes, powerful performances, and striking imagery continue to captivate new audiences, maintaining its relevance. Its emotional depth and storytelling mastery ensure it remains a compelling experience, inviting emotional and intellectual connection long after the initial viewing. Conclusion. A film that captivates and provokes deep emotional investment. In conclusion, The Godfather Part II excels at engaging its audience on multiple levels, emotionally, intellectually, and culturally. It elicits a broad spectrum of reactions, from tension and shock to empathy and reflection, making it a profoundly immersive and memorable cinematic experience. Its ability to provoke thought, encourage discussion, and reward repeat viewings cements its place as one of the most enduring and impactful films in history. Would you like me to help you turn this detailed analysis into a YouTube video script or translate it into Urdu or Roman Urdu for your channel? Introduction. Standing tall amongst giants. The Godfather Part II is often regarded as one of the greatest sequels in cinematic history, and its comparison to other films, whether within its own franchise, the crime genre, or Francis Ford Coppola's broader filmography, reveals how it both honors tradition and pushes boundaries. It stands as a benchmark for sequels and crime dramas, offering a fresh narrative structure, thematic depth, and artistic ambition that distinguishes it from many contemporaries and successors. 1. Comparison within the Godfather franchise. Unlike typical sequels that simply extend the original story, The Godfather Part II expands the narrative scope by employing a dual storyline, showing both young Vito Corleone's origins and Michael's present-day reign. This non-linear narrative offers a richer exploration of legacy and power, deepening the mythology established in the first film rather than merely continuing Michael's story. The film maintains the tone and style of the original, with its careful pacing, intense character focus, and operatic grandeur, but pushes further into darker, more introspective territory. Compared to The Godfather Part III, which many critics view as weaker, Part II is far more cohesive, thematically ambitious, and artistically refined, solidifying its status as the franchise's pinnacle. 2. Comparison to other crime and mafia films. The Godfather Part II elevates the mafia genre by blending epic storytelling with psychological depth. Unlike more straightforward gangster films like Scarface, 1983, or Goodfellas, 1990, which emphasize action and fast pacing, this film offers a slow-burning, meditative approach. It avoids glamorizing crime, instead portraying the moral ambiguity and personal costs of a criminal empire, a tone that influenced many later crime dramas. Films such as Casino and The Sopranos owe a clear debt to the narrative complexity and character-driven focus that The Godfather Part II perfected. Its sophisticated storytelling contrasts with genre films that rely heavily on clichés or sensationalism, offering instead a refined and nuanced portrayal of power and family. 3. Comparison to Francis Ford Coppola's other works. In the context of Coppola's filmography, The Godfather Part II represents a high point of artistic ambition and narrative innovation. Compared to The Godfather, 1972, Part II is more complex and darker, showing Coppola's growth as a filmmaker willing to experiment with structure and thematic exploration. It contrasts with later films like Apocalypse Now, 1979, where Coppola embraced a more chaotic, surreal style. Part II remains tightly controlled, focusing on human drama and moral decline. The film's blending of historical narrative and personal tragedy exemplifies Coppola's ability to craft deeply human stories within grand cinematic canvases. 4. Offering something new versus following a familiar formula. While The Godfather Part II retains many genre conventions, organized crime, family loyalty, betrayal, it redefines these elements through its dual narrative structure and psychological depth. The film resists easy categorization as a simple gangster story by embedding rich historical context, political intrigue, and character study. Its innovative use of parallel storytelling, interweaving past and present, was groundbreaking at the time and has influenced countless films since. It avoids repetitive storytelling pitfalls common in sequels, instead offering fresh perspectives on themes of power, identity, and legacy. 5. Legacy and influence compared to similar films. The Godfather Part II is often cited as a benchmark against which all sequels and crime dramas are measured. Its influence extends beyond genre boundaries, inspiring filmmakers in drama, history, and character-driven cinema to pursue ambitious storytelling. Few films in its category have matched its combination of critical acclaim, cultural impact, and narrative complexity. Conclusion: a sequel that transcends its origins. In summary, The Godfather Part II not only matches the greatness of its predecessor but also surpasses many of its peers through bold narrative innovation and profound thematic exploration. It stands apart from other crime films and sequels by blending tradition with invention, securing its place as an enduring classic both within its franchise and in the broader cinematic landscape. Introduction: the layers beneath the surface. The Godfather Part II is a richly textured film, layered with symbolism and metaphors that deepen its storytelling and illuminate its central themes. Through recurring visual motifs, symbolic imagery, and metaphorical elements, the film communicates complex ideas about power, family, identity, and moral decay, often without explicit dialogue, inviting viewers to engage more deeply with its narrative. 1. The dual narrative as a symbolic structure. The film's parallel storytelling, juxtaposing young Vito Corleone's rise with Michael's reign, serves as a metaphor for the cyclical nature of power and legacy. This dual timeline symbolizes the contrast between innocence and corruption, hope and decay, as Vito's story embodies the immigrant dream and community building, while Michael's arc portrays isolation and moral downfall. The intercutting of past and present visually reinforces themes of cause and effect, showing how history shapes identity and fate. 2. The use of light and darkness. Cinematographer Gordon Willis famously employed chiaroscuro lighting, creating deep shadows and pools of darkness that symbolize moral ambiguity and hidden threats. Scenes bathed in shadow often represent the corruption and secrecy within the Corleone family, emphasizing that power is intertwined with darkness and danger. Conversely, moments of light, such as family celebrations or flashbacks to Vito's early life, suggest hope, warmth, and the idealized vision of family unity that gradually erodes. 3. The recurring motif of water. Water imagery recurs symbolically throughout the film, whether in rain, fountains, or lakes. Water serves as a metaphor for cleansing and renewal, but also for the inevitability of change and the flow of time. The famous baptism scene, where Michael's godson is baptized while murders ordered by Michael unfold simultaneously, uses water as a stark symbol of hypocrisy and the collision of innocence and violence. 4. The symbolism of the family home and estate. The Corleone estate and family homes function as metaphors for power, legacy, and the fragility of family bonds. As Michael's isolation grows, the estate becomes a symbol of his loneliness and moral decay, a physical manifestation of his internal disintegration. In contrast, Vito's humble beginnings and eventual establishment of a home represent the foundation and hopes of immigrant families, highlighting the shift from community to alienation across generations. 5. Objects as symbols, the orange and the Corleone ring. Oranges, appearing at key moments, serve as subtle omens of impending death or disaster, a visual cue that links violence to the family's fate. The Corleone family ring symbolizes authority, tradition, and the weight of responsibility. The passing of the ring, or its display, visually signals shifts in power and identity within the family. 6. Metaphors of betrayal and loyalty. Betrayal is metaphorically represented through imagery such as broken glass, closed doors, and shadows cast on faces, underscoring fractured relationships. Loyalty, conversely, is often shown through shared meals, physical proximity, and familial rituals, visual metaphors reinforcing the film's core tension between unity and division. 7. The role of music as symbolic layering. Nino Rota's haunting score acts as a sonic metaphor for the past's grip on the present, blending melancholy with grandeur. Recurring musical motifs underscore moments of power transition, betrayal, or nostalgia, adding emotional resonance to visual symbolism. Conclusion: symbolism as a gateway to deeper meaning. The Godfather Part II uses symbolism and metaphors with masterful subtlety, enriching the narrative by adding layers of meaning beneath its surface story. These elements enhance the film's exploration of power, identity, and morality, inviting viewers to look beyond plot and dialogue to the emotional and philosophical heart of the film. By weaving recurring motifs and symbolic imagery throughout, the film achieves a timeless quality, transforming a crime saga into a profound meditation on human nature and legacy. Introduction: a critical link in a legendary franchise and a deep dive into historical realism. The Godfather Part II occupies a unique position both as a sequel in one of cinema's most iconic franchises and as a film that richly immerses itself in historical periods to enhance its storytelling. It serves not only to continue and deepen the narrative begun in The Godfather, 1972, but also to provide an expansive look at the immigrant experience and American society in the early to mid-20th century. This dual focus elevates the film beyond a simple crime saga, weaving a complex tapestry of family, power, and history. 1. Contribution to the overarching franchise narrative. As the direct sequel to The Godfather, Part II extends the saga by exploring the multi-generational story of the Corleone family, deepening the mythology introduced in the original. The film's dual timeline structure enriches the franchise's narrative by contrasting young Vito Corleone's humble beginnings and rise to power with Michael Corleone's contemporary struggles to maintain and expand the family empire. This contrast allows the franchise to explore themes of legacy, the corruption of power, and the American dream's darker side with greater nuance. Unlike many sequels that simply continue the plot, Part II redefines the scope and tone, presenting a darker, more introspective vision that complicates the heroic narrative of the first film. It also sets the stage for The Godfather Part III by establishing Michael's moral isolation and the consequences of his choices, creating a cohesive trilogy narrative arc. 2. Historical context and period accuracy. The film meticulously recreates multiple historical periods, from the early 1900s immigrant neighborhoods of New York to the political and economic landscape of 1950s America. Scenes depicting Vito Corleone's childhood in Sicily and his immigration to New York reflect the real struggles faced by Italian immigrants, including poverty, discrimination, and violent retribution from rival factions. The attention to period detail extends to costumes, set design, and social customs, which immerse viewers in the era's atmosphere with authenticity. Michael's storyline captures the post-World War II American milieu, touching on political corruption, organized crime's infiltration of business and government, and Cold War tensions. While some characters and events are fictionalized, the film incorporates historical realities and allusions, such as Senate hearings on organized crime and the Cuban Revolution, to ground the story in a believable and immersive context. This blending of fact and fiction enhances the film's sense of realism and weight, making the Corleone's story feel part of the broader American historical experience. 3. Immersive storytelling through historical layering. The film's ability to traverse decades allows it to portray the transformation of American society and the immigrant experience over time, showing how historical forces shape individual destinies. The contrast between Vito's hopeful rise and Michael's increasingly isolated reign mirrors broader themes of change and decline in American cultural and political life. This layering adds depth to the franchise, positioning the Corleone saga as a metaphor for the evolution, and often the corruption, of American ideals. 4. Influence on the franchise's legacy. By successfully merging a personal family saga with broader historical realities, The Godfather Part II raises the stakes for the entire franchise. It sets a high standard for sequels in terms of narrative complexity, thematic richness, and historical immersion. The film's approach to combining intimate storytelling with sweeping historical scope has influenced many subsequent franchise films that seek to balance character development with epic scale. Conclusion: a pillar of franchise continuity and historical realism. The Godfather Part II stands as a cornerstone of the Godfather franchise by expanding its narrative depth and emotional complexity while authentically portraying the historical contexts that shaped its characters and themes. Its meticulous period accuracy and immersive storytelling deepen the viewer's understanding of both the Corleone family saga and the broader American experience, ensuring its enduring status as a masterpiece of cinematic and historical storytelling. Introduction: balancing ambition with commercial success. The Godfather Part II stands as a landmark in film history, not only for its artistic achievements but also for how it balanced a significant production budget with remarkable box office success. The film's financial story is closely tied to its production quality, marketing strategy, and the high expectations set by its predecessor. 1. Production budget versus production quality. The production budget for The Godfather Part II was approximately $13 million, $1,974, which was considered substantial at the time but relatively modest for an epic, sprawling film covering multiple timelines and complex sets. Despite this, the film's production quality is exceptionally high, reflecting careful allocation of resources. Detailed period-accurate sets and locations, from early 20th century New York tenements to lavish 1950s estates, demonstrate meticulous art direction and set design. Costume design, props, and cinematography reinforce the film's authenticity and immersive atmosphere. The film also invested in top-tier talent, including director Francis Ford Coppola, acclaimed actors, and a renowned crew, ensuring a polished final product. The budget was well managed, showing that a mid-range budget could still deliver a cinematic epic without excess spending on flashy effects or extravagant sequences. 2. Box office performance. Upon its release in December 1974, The Godfather Part II was both a critical and commercial success. The film grossed approximately $93 million worldwide, making it one of the highest-grossing films of its year. Its box office success validated the risks taken in producing a sequel that was more complex and less conventional than typical Hollywood fare. The film's strong opening and sustained audience interest demonstrated the power of the Godfather brand, as well as effective word-of-mouth promotion. 3. Marketing and audience reception. The marketing campaign capitalized on the overwhelming success and acclaim of the original Godfather film, leveraging its reputation to build anticipation. Trailers and promotional materials emphasized the return of beloved characters, the continuation of the Corleone family saga, and the film's grandeur. Early critical acclaim, particularly from influential reviewers and award nominations, played a crucial role in maintaining audience interest. Viewers were drawn not only by the promise of more mafia drama but by the film's artistic reputation, which helped attract a more diverse audience beyond typical crime film fans. The film's mature themes and complex narrative were embraced by audiences who appreciated sophisticated storytelling, contributing to repeat viewings and long-term box office gains. 4. Awards and their impact on financial success. The film's 7 Academy Award nominations and 6 wins, including Best Picture and Best Director, significantly boosted its profile. Award season buzz helped sustain box office momentum weeks and months after the initial release. This recognition reinforced the film's status as a major cultural event, encouraging audiences who might have hesitated to see it initially. 5. Legacy in terms of budget and earnings. The Godfather Part II proved that a film with high artistic ambition could also be a commercial blockbuster, challenging the notion that critical acclaim and financial success are mutually exclusive. Its financial success demonstrated to studios that sequels could be treated as serious works of art, not just commercial cash grabs. The film set a benchmark for sequels in Hollywood, influencing how studios approached budgeting, marketing, and production quality for franchise follow-ups. Conclusion: a financial triumph matched by artistic excellence. In summary, The Godfather Part II managed its budget efficiently to produce a film of outstanding quality, which translated into strong box office returns and enduring commercial success. Supported by savvy marketing and exceptional critical reception, it confirmed that ambitious, artistically driven sequels could achieve blockbuster status, cementing its legacy as both a financial and cinematic milestone. Introduction: accessing a cinematic masterpiece. The Godfather Part II remains one of cinema's most celebrated classics, and its availability across various platforms ensures that new and returning audiences can experience the film's full impact. Knowing where and how to watch the film plays a significant role in appreciating its narrative depth, technical brilliance, and emotional power. 1. Theatrical screenings and special events. While The Godfather Part II originally premiered in theaters in 1974, it occasionally enjoys special theatrical re-releases or screenings at film festivals and retrospectives. Watching the film on the big screen is often regarded as the most immersive experience, allowing audiences to appreciate the film's detailed cinematography, sound design, and grand scale. Film societies and art house cinemas sometimes host restored or anniversary editions, which include enhanced picture and sound quality, making theatrical viewing a preferred choice for cinephiles and purists. 2. Streaming platforms. As of recent years, The Godfather Part II has been available on major streaming platforms, such as Paramount+, the studio's own streaming service, and occasionally on others like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, or Hulu, depending on licensing agreements and regional availability. Streaming provides convenient, on-demand access to the film for a broad audience, allowing viewers to watch at their own pace, pause for reflection, and revisit scenes, an advantage for appreciating the film's complex narrative structure. High-definition streaming versions often come with improved video and audio quality, which enhances the viewing experience compared to older home media formats. 3. Digital rental and purchase. For those who prefer ownership or rental without subscriptions, the film is widely available on digital platforms such as iTunes, Google Play Movies, YouTube Movies, Vudu, and Amazon Video. Digital purchase offers the ability to own a high-quality copy with options for HD or even 4K Ultra HD versions if available. Rentals provide a cost-effective way to watch the film on multiple devices, including smart TVs, tablets, and smartphones, allowing flexibility in viewing location and timing. 4. Physical media, DVD and Blu-ray editions. Collectors and enthusiasts often seek out DVD and Blu-ray editions, which frequently include restored picture and sound, along with special features like director commentaries, behind-the-scenes documentaries, and interviews with cast and crew. The Criterion Collection and other high-end releases offer remastered versions that are prized for their fidelity and supplemental materials, enriching the viewer's understanding of the film. Physical media ensures ownership without dependency on streaming licenses, a critical factor for those who want guaranteed access indefinitely. 5. The best way to watch for the fullest impact. For first-time viewers or those seeking the ultimate experience, watching The Godfather Part II on a large, high-definition screen with a quality sound system, whether in a theater or home theater setup, is ideal. Experiencing the film uninterrupted, in a quiet environment, allows for full immersion in the story's emotional nuances and the subtleties of its cinematography and score. Watching the film with minimal distractions supports appreciation of its complex narrative structure, layered themes, and the interplay between the dual timelines. Conclusion: multiple accessible options for every viewer. The Godfather Part II is widely accessible across theatrical screenings, streaming platforms, digital rentals and purchases, and physical media, catering to diverse viewing preferences. While streaming and digital access provide convenience, the film's rich visual and auditory experience is best appreciated through high-quality presentation, making theatrical viewings or high-definition home setups the preferred choice for fully immersing in this cinematic masterpiece.